Hello and welcome to the Low Code Podcast. I'm Faraz Khan from iTrack, and we are the global specialists in OutSystems recruitment. With this podcast, our aim is to increase awareness and appreciation of OutSystems and its impact and benefits to the market, and our early adoption is giving competitive edge to businesses worldwide. During our podcast, myself and my colleague Sushil Chauhan will be speaking to IT leaders and OutSystems MVPs on how OutSystems has transformed their businesses and careers. We also hope that by speaking to MVPs on their career journeys, we can inspire developers from all over the world to learn from others who have already been on the path. So let's go. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Code Podcast. Today my guest is João Marques from Portugal, but based in the Netherlands. How's João?
Hi, how are you?
Good, yourself?
Yeah, also good, thank you.
How's things going over there?
Yeah, good. The weather could be better, but
hence you've got New York. Is it New York in the background?
Yes, it is. It is. It is.
Yeah, it's a nice background.
That's actually the purpose.
What's that? Sorry.
That's actually the purpose.
Yes.
So you don't see the bad weather.
Yeah, like I said before, the call. We're both in not the best weather. This time of year, but it is what it is. We've got to deal with it. Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to us. I think it'd be good to kind of start off with a bit of an introduction and background to yourself.
Yes, first of all, thank you very much for having me here. I'm Portuguese, as you mentioned. I graduated a few years ago in computer engineering, and afterwards took a master's degree in artificial intelligence and natural language processing before starting my career in 2013 in one of the big four firms, so audit firm back in Portugal. I actually started, I went for computer engineering because I really liked maths and logic. So at that moment, I didn't know anything about programming nor OutSystems. But when I joined this big four audit company, of course, you're talking about somebody which is very raw. You did not have that much experience. So I was able to get in contact with an array of technologies. We are talking about SAP, ABAP. We're talking about Excel, VBA. We're talking about OutSystems, SQL, reporting tools, business intelligence tools, and all these kind of things. In the beginning of the year, of course, I was assigned to short-term projects. I got in contact with OutSystems, but very small contact. And ultimately, 1 year deep in my career, I was able to choose the direction I wanted to move forward with. And there was a development team back in that company that was developing a product for banking. And I wanted to join that team because, OutSystems left a good impression with me back at the day. So it was a very nice experience. I felt that I no longer needed to face the nitty-gritty stuff because OutSystems would abstract me from all of that. But instead, I was working with a higher level and be able to challenge the business and working closely to the customer. So I was talking to risk directors of the bank and discussing with them the features of the product. So I was contributing for a better product. Yeah. So that was a very nice experience, and it also allowed me to get in touch with real OutSystems projects. Nonetheless, we were inserted on a product, and we were kind of framed inside of these environments to develop things. And after 2 years, I was feeling this desire to kind of specialize in OutSystems and to try to go into other projects and really learn about OutSystems. With that, it came in 2016. I moved to the Netherlands in the end of 2016. Where I was able to really study OutSystems and to really be guided with people, not only so focused on the product, but really on OutSystems. And on that moment, I really learned a lot on the technology and gained a lot of expertise. So after also some years working, then I moved to tech lead, and afterwards I joined Product League 3 years ago, which was a startup and a nice challenge. Going there as first employee. And just one of the first, we were 4 back then. Uh,
A lot more than 4 now, isn't there?
yeah, a lot more than 4.
Yeah.
It's true. And ultimately, yeah, I recently decided to leave and work as a freelancer. I was feeling the need for a more flexible settlement, more convenient to what I'm looking for in personal reasons. And I think in that sense, pandemic affected us, each one of
Sure.
us, in a very
Yeah.
personal way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in my situation, I felt this was the natural next step to go.
Great, great. And when you first got exposed to OutSystems, you said you were doing a few different things. What was it? If you didn't work with it for so long, what was it that kind of made you think, okay, yeah, I do really like this. I want to proceed with this.
Yeah, it definitely. I felt that working with the other technologies,
Yeah,
many times you're blocked or you're trying to figure out a small technical detail that in the end it's really hard to explain to the business that just want things working.
yeah.
So in that sense, you're not really, I mean, you're not really adding value on some sense, because it's actually funny because one of these days I was listening to a webinar on risk management, and of course they manage the main risks, which you go over the budget or you don't deliver on time.
Yeah.
But there's also one which is very, very important, which is when you deliver something which did not have value. So people were expecting one thing and you built another one.
Mm.
And I think, of course, OutSystems tackles all of those things, allowing you to deliver fast and with less developers. But especially the last one, for me, it's really important, because since you don't need to be worried with all these small details, it frees you up time to actually challenge the business and contribute to a better product.
Yeah.
So in the end, I think without systems, you are able to think and contribute to a solution rather than just implementing something that somebody else said. And I think in the end, this product owner sees you as an ally. His team of contributing for a better product is much bigger, and in the end, you deliver way more value.
And when you moved to Netherlands in end of 2016, what kind of because the OutSystems market in Portugal is big enough. Obviously, Netherlands is probably second. What kind of made you make the move rather than look within Portugal?
Well, for several reasons. One of the things was when I was working in Portugal, I was mostly working for African countries' banks. And a certain way, in Portugal, we always hear, hey, the northern countries, they work differently, they work more efficiently. And I was willing to try that. And also I really love traveling. So it was one opportunity also to move. Netherlands being, as you mentioned, and rightfully so, like a big OutSystems market, naturally it was the next step to move there. And also, of course, we were talking about learning and improving your language skills, in English, of course, Netherlands, and so on.
And was your English this good before you moved, or did it get a lot better after you moved?
Well, thank you very much. I think you learn it when you practice. So definitely, sure. I'd say it improves with that move.
And how did you find? A lot of people who tend to relocate to different countries. Sometimes it's a big culture change, big kind of even working ways are different. How did you find and adapt to that?
Well, to be honest, I was prepared to be a lot worse.
Okay.
I think, the fact that in the Netherlands everybody speaks English makes your life so much easier. I think that's also one of the reasons why people don't learn Dutch that much, because everybody talks English. You don't really feel the need to. Regarding the working changes, there's, I think, more respect for your work-life balance. And especially, I'd say that teams would be way more structured. I don't know if for budget reasons, but back in the day when I was working in Portugal, you would not have all those roles that we're talking about, product owner and Scrum Master and the tester and the BA. So very often you have a person working over hours and accumulating multiple roles.
Okay.
So in that sense, it allowed me and it gave me the space to really focus and improve my OutSystems craft.
Okay. And like you said, you're now entering the world of freelance. What kind of I know you said like the pandemic played a part and personal reasons. What kind of motivated you to kind of, was that something that was in your mind before the pandemic, or is it something that came after, or was it something you thought, I want to get to a certain level within my experience before I make the move?
Yeah, you elaborated very well, and I think it was a bit of all these questions.
Okay.
So it had been on my mind to be able to move and to hopefully have the chance to choose projects that I feel that I can grow into. And the pandemic, of course, plays a role that you don't feel the freedom to move so much.
Yeah.
And of course, it also kind of proved that remote work is possible, and what it counts in the end is your work ethic and the work you deliver, the quality of the work you deliver. So it was a bit all of that that made me go through this journey.
Cool. And going back to when you first started working with OutSystems, I know it was probably still, was it quite well known already in Portugal at that time?
I think it was starting to be, but it was still not a major boom. I think it was start booming. I recall being in the university, and some companies went to pitch in of trying to attract the young talent.
Young talent, yeah.
Yeah, and I eventually moved on to a couple of interviews, and both of them. The big audit was so much more than OutSystems. We're talking about the development team back then was 4 or 5 people, so it was not a big thing there. The other one was a software house, which they developed in OutSystems. They were showcasing things that were in OutSystems.
Yeah.
So I'd say that it was start to booming, but not to the point that I was in university and kind of heard it all over the place.
Yeah. And, if you hadn't gone with OutSystems, did you have any kind of backup that you were interested in?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I really love maths and logic, and I also really like databases. So I did some projects even before starting with OutSystems, which was validating a lot of data and doing queries and so on. So business intelligence would be an area that I like. But I think that's also the beauty of OutSystems. OutSystems is just the finishing point. It's just a starting point. Yeah. And with that, you can integrate with a multiple array of things, and you can touch all kinds of areas and expertise in certain areas. We're talking about SEO, we are talking about databases, we're talking about business intelligence, we're talking about data mining. I mean, depending on the project, you can touch in all of those things, and it's nice to have a knowledge, at least basic knowledge on these kind of situations.
And in your kind of time working with OutSystems, was there kind of any period where you thought, were you kind of set, okay, this is the career I'm going with, or I might look back into kind of the BI or other technologies?
Yeah, definitely there was a moment I was kind of thinking between both. I think it definitely played a difference, the fact that in terms of the markets, it definitely, since there's more shortage of OutSystems people, the market kind of directs you towards this career, whereas in business intelligence, where like people with 20 years of experience, somebody with 2 or 3 doesn't really stand a chance. But in any case, the thing I found with OutSystems was the possibility to not stop doing BI or not stop doing anything. So as I mentioned, I think it's a starting point to move things. And one of the things that I also really enjoyed about OutSystems as I was starting to grow my knowledge about the technology is the fact that that's true, that people will tell you that, hey, everybody can code it and everybody can do it. And that's really cool. But there's still some room there for you to make a difference with your knowledge. And that's why senior people are so looked upon. For instance, we're talking about using caching to make performance. We're talking about SEO. So there's still a bit of technology there. It's not just low code and it's not technology. No, you really need to think about, you need to be creative, and you need to have an analytic mind, because although it's not high coding, you still need to think and be creative about the solutions to promote an application that, of course, can be maintainable and can be monitored and so on and so forth.
Yeah. And I think, what you said was right about, we speak to candidates all the time who may have considered leaving OutSystems for something else. And because there's a shortage in the market, there's always a demand to keep going, which is great.
Definitely. I think the market is kind of crazy, and on some, you were talking about freelancing. Of course, I also had the chance because the market is looking for people with those skills. So that is good. But I would say for people that haven't tried the technology or kind of have doubts about the technology, to play with it, and when they find like a challenging project, they will see that it doesn't end there. I mean, I'm doing projects all the time and I'm learning stuff every time. I mean, I've done data scraping with OutSystems. I've done integrations with all kinds of technologies. We're talking about AWS, Microsoft, and Teams, and Chats, and Stripes, and all of those things. So OutSystems is just a starting point. It's not an ending point. So I would not see it as a closed box that when you do that, you don't do anything else. No, not at all.
Cool. And have you ever looked into any other low-code platforms just to kind of compare?
I've looked a bit into Mendix, to be honest. It was at some moment it was on my pipeline to eventually get certified there. I think it would be important from a sales standpoint that you know all of them, and that you can support, better advise your customers in which path to go. But at that time did not really had the time, and eventually dropped by. So I know a bit about Blocks and Mendix, but very little, to be honest.
I guess by doing that, you could also kind of be a bit more of a like you said, a low code specialist consultant where you can advise in the right direction to go in.
That's true. And now that you mentioned this, there are also, I mean, that's the kind of thing that you learn when you look to other technologies, and I presume like everybody also looks to the other ones. And I've on some personal projects, I've taken a look to things like Shopify, like WordPress, like Wix. And it definitely makes you think that even OutSystems has room to grow with certain things, or they have some accelerators that, of course, are more that are targeting more small websites, like when you target with these kind of things. But in any case, it really gives you good ideas to not only to improve OutSystems platform, but also to improve your skills, because eventually this comes into play. I was giving SEO as an example because if you're creating an e-commerce, if you're creating a blog on WordPress, you will see those things there. So eventually you start to understand how important those things those things are. So it's very nice. And OutSystems also moving to reactive. It targets now, and it's able to deliver a very, very good user experience. So you start looking more to B2C apps. But when you're thinking about B2C, those WordPresses and so on, they're working on B2C apps for a long time. So
of course,
definitely. I mean, like I mentioned, OutSystems is just the starting point.
And that kind of leads into you may have already answered it, but what I was going to ask was, for someone who's been using OutSystems for such a long time, do you think what kind of features do you think have made them, taken them to the next level? Would you say reactive is one of them?
Definitely. Reactive, I'd say that it made OutSystems stop being looked at as a tool to replace legacy system and to improve your back office processes, to actually deliver top-notch user experience apps, and it's make a difference. Whenever you have a bunch of applications on your phone, and all of them are high quality. You need to have users expect the best in terms of client, in terms of apps. So you definitely need to be on the top of your game and to deliver something that works. Otherwise, they will just scratch it up. You have a bad review on Google, and that's it. So definitely, a reactive was one of them.
Okay. And you're now an MVP. I know there's different ways to become an MVP. What was your kind of contribution to become an MVP?
Yeah, well, I think I contributed on several senses, on several threads. On forums, I was quite participative, indeed. Also wrote a couple of articles on that matter, and also created some components that are also available. Which and I think that this are the funny things, that how you connect dots. Some of these components are things that by using other technologies, you notice, hey, it's pretty cool that they have something that you just drag and you configure, and hey, you have a language picker, language selector there. How do you do this in OutSystems? Hey, you need to build this from scratch. So then this gave origin to a component, which was a contribution. Yeah. So was contributing on those threads.
That's great. And I know obviously being an MVP, you guys know of things before others which you cannot share, but is there something that you in your mind that is not currently in the pipeline that you would like to see in the future?
They are. I mean, when you start working on projects, eventually you face a situation where you think the product should solve this. And I'd say, in that the privilege of being an OutSystems MVP is to be closer to the product team, knowing which direction are they heading, and also contributing to this direction. So it makes you feel a part of the product and a part of the team, contributing or giving your 2 cents to improve the product.
Yeah, that's great. And do you ever get in discussions with people from traditional code who still aren't believers in low code and OutSystems?
Not that much, to be honest. But I remember running into somebody that felt a bit like this. But I'd say the pattern I've been seeing with these people is that sometimes it's a tough pill to swallow when you are like a super expert on a certain technology for 20 years, and you're certainly starting with a new technology. And you need to be humble that you need to learn. But I'd say, and I hope to also to be the person that even after 20 years, I'm still humble and recognize that's way more to know. So the more I know, the more I recognize there are things that I need to learn.
Exactly. And how do you see, I think in the last few years, the word low code itself is a lot better known globally. How do you kind of see not just OutSystems, but the future with low code?
That's a very good question. I wonder if we'll ever see no code if really replacing low code. I don't see it. At least for now, but I cannot go away of thinking, especially having studied about the process, that artificial intelligence will not play a major role in that. We're talking about, low code is growing by the minute, and also artificial intelligence will have a better training base to really improve and help the developers. But it's hard to imagine that you will eventually move to a no code, because you're building application for people.
Yes.
So it makes sense that you have people there, and that's actually the advantage of low code, because it frees you to think about what other people want, rather than just putting code that works.
Sure.
To produce meaningful code. So I'm also excited about what's coming next. Really curious to which is the path.
See what happens. Yeah. And one thing I like, you touched on it before, but one thing I like to ask all our guests is, the main goal of the podcast was to create awareness, get non-OutSystems people to learn OutSystems or, any low code platform, what would be kind of your message to those people who are skeptical? We get a lot of computer science graduates who, if we approach them for a graduate OutSystems role, they're very like, is this good for my future or not? So what would be your kind of message to those kind of people?
Well, first of all, I would say try it.
Yeah.
But there are, I mean, this is an answer that you can answer on multiple ways. So in terms of your career, just see the market demand. So you see definitely there's a possibility there. The second thing that when you talk to these people, many times you feel, oh, this is low code. It's not really, I want to do the traditional code. That's true that it's also traditional code there. So one of the things is OutSystems, and one of the features, if not the feature I love the most about it, it's the ability to extend with anything. So you can also produce .NET code and integrate with OutSystems if needed. But the thing that it really allows you is to build something which is more meaningful in a faster way and find more sense on what you're developing. I think it may be really frustrating if you really develop a good solution, but that does not solve the problem.
Sure.
So starting to face this, I think people will see the value in low code things. And the second thing, when people say, hey, you don't face a challenge. Yes, they do. I've seen applications going live and with 50 users, they crash. So you still need to have an analytical mind. You still need to have and grasp concepts like caching, like indexing. You still need to know how to optimize your queries. You still need to think about on the process the way that you store your data. For instance, that you don't store blobs, otherwise you'll overflow your SQL database. And more, also one of the things is that as traffic grows, more and more you need to resort to NoSQL database. So you need to know more. So I would say, don't think that OutSystems, hey, you just do kind of PowerPoint and you drag and it
drop.
makes no. For you to build a good application and something that really plays a role in the real world, you will face a lot of challenges, and you will have the time to be able to tackle all those challenges, which you won't have with traditional development, because you will be busy doing the ifs and the switches and all those things.
Great answer, I think, to end the podcast on. Thanks for taking the time, João. It was really nice speaking to you.
Thank you very much.
I wish you all the best in your journey as a freelancer. You said you like traveling, so hopefully you can travel the world and work from anywhere, any nice location.
Yeah, that's the dream. Thanks very much for having me.
Maybe next time we talk, that background won't be virtual, it'll be real.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your time, and hopefully we also maybe meet one day in the future. You're not too far away, so when things get better, I'm sure we'll cross paths somewhere.
I'd like that. Thank you very much.
Right. Nice talking to you, João.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of the Low Code Podcast, hosted by iTrack, Global OutSystems Recruitment Specialist. Be sure to subscribe, and see you next time.